I'm becoming the international action guy on these podcasts, so I'm back with another one. And so yeah, so basically, you know, last time I was on these, I spoke about the raid. Well, Ong-Bak was pretty much the raid 10 years before the raid, where it was just a huge kind of international sensation, you know, in one of these low budget, like cult, you know, martial arts action films that became all the rage in the US and other places. And so yeah, kind of these types of films kind of have, you know, several things in common where number one, you have, you know, obviously a really talented performer in Tony Jaa. And then you also kind of get this like low budget nature of making the movie. And what that usually means is that leads to just everything is just practical effects and stunt work. And in a day and age where, you know, the CGI is just becoming more and more crazy whenever something, you know, brings you back to your roots with just crazy stunt work, it's always kind of entertaining. And you kind of see that off the jump in this film where it's just a bunch of people trying to climb a tree and like just all these stunt guys are just falling out of it, and you know there's like barely any padding on that ground as they're falling to it. And so it kind of like sets the tone and all that. And then kind of the last aspect here is, you know, some sort of quote unquote unique, basically like a new fighting style that many people outside of that region of the world don't know about. So obviously the Indonesian guys, you know, have their own style, and Tony Jaa has Muay Thai, which honestly this movie sparked like a whole thing of people wanting to take classes in this, like, and probably still lingers to this day. And you know, it's a very kind of, it's a fun and explosive fighting style. You know, it's all elbows and knees, and just, you know, kind of based on like just wild power and sort of like a kamikaze style nature, you know, which is a lot differing from kind of the previous stars in this realm that, you know, like Jet Li and Jackie Chan, you know, their stuff is more, it's quick, you know, it's reflex and all this, whereas Tony comes in here and it's just straight power most of the time. And so yeah, so you add all those elements together and you get just a great entertaining hit. And you know, kind of the film has its various pieces to it. You know, you get kind of just a standard story of a guy from, you know, a small village. You know, something happens to that village and he has to go out to help, you know, help something. In this case, it was a stolen artifact. And so then, you know, a country person goes into the big city and gets tangled up in a gang war somehow, and things escalate from there. And there's also kind of this cool kind of like warrior monk tradition type thing that the character has going on, and kind of like good, you know, interesting religious elements in terms of the Buddhism and all that. And then kind of when the action gets going, first of all, there's a chase scene where they just basically have Tony just running through random streets and then just think of the most creative things that he can jump through and avoid, and some like parkour stuff. And it's quite fun. It's interesting because like it's, you know, it's mainly kind of the first big action piece is more of like a humor gag, and kind of it's more in that Jackie Chan style of kind of just going through and using random objects and whatnot. And then I'd say the action pieces really get going with the first fight at the club, not the, you know, Jason Bourne one punch thing, but the one after that where he goes up against, you know, 3 different fighters like in succession, and that's when you really see everything like come out, and that's kind of where the iconic flying knees and elbows come into play. I mean, that one shot of him like jumping up with a knee onto the guy who's like standing on the table and like hit him and then just stop perfectly on that table is one of the most iconic shots in action films. And I particularly enjoy when the crazy dude comes out who his whole style is just using all the tables and chairs around him to break everything. And I love how the crowd reacts and everyone just starts like, we're just like, oh no, it's that guy. And everyone just starts running and all that. And so yeah, so eventually, it escalates into, kind of this one gang who's basically trying to stop him as he's just like accidentally like ruining all their plans. And there's a lot of stuff going on after that. Another famous part is where he has the flying knee kick with his legs on fire is another famous one. He has a couple of side kicks that often kind of these like lone wolf fighters have to help him navigate around and help him complete his objectives, or have a reason to protect them, and kind of a motivation of some sort. So in this case you have the kid, and then another person, a previous like cousin from his village, who's kind of this like oafish character, but kind of goes on his own individual journey of kind of finding himself again and what type of person he wants to be. And so yeah, then I guess there's always the evil like goon who's like the main antagonist, the most superior fighter that the main character has to beat, and he loses one match and then wins the final match, and yeah, we all have a good time.
Yeah, I remember watching this back in the 2000s, so over 10 years ago. And I loved it then, and I watched it again a couple of days ago, and I loved it just as much. It is just a wildly entertaining film. It's probably one of my favorite martial arts films. This and Drunken Master 2, the Jackie Chan film, probably like my favorite film. And on one level, it's just an amazing exhibition of what the human body is capable of. Like Tony Jaa is just an amazing athlete and fighter, and the fights that the film depicts and the chase sequences are just spectacular. And on another level, it's just a very fun and funny film. There's lots of jokes in it. You've got the kind of comedic sidekicks in Humle and My Lek. You've just got this over-the-top villain who has like a hole in his throat and talks through like a little machine, and gets karmically killed by a giant Buddha statue falling on him at the end. The fight sequence was great, where he's jumping through the barbed wire, just completely unnecessarily jumping through barbed wire.
I know.
And then Humlai will try and like copy what he's doing, and get a bucket on the head. And there was another bit where he picks up a knife and threatens his pursuers, and then a lady walks past saying "knives for sale," and then next smash cut to all the guys chasing him each with their own knives. And the fighters in the club are so ridiculous. You've got like the Australian bogan, taunting the Thai men and attacking the Thai women. It's just crazy. But yeah, I really enjoyed the film as a martial arts film, because it hits all the best beats of like the best martial arts film, but in a slightly different way. But also it's a different fighting style, so you can appreciate it in contrast to like Bruce Lee films and Jackie Chan films, which are much more like fluid and fast, whereas this is just, as you say, raw power. Like the shots of him just absolutely breaking people's skulls with his elbows and knees, and the fact that he does it from like heights, like he'll take a run up or he'll jump off a building and smash someone with his elbow, is just so satisfying. And also in an age of, CGI superhero movies where everything just seems computer generated, it's so refreshing to see real stunt work. Like it's such a throwback to the 80s, and it's just so well done. Like it's done better than any stunt work I've seen. And the fact that they will show the stunts from multiple different angles is just so it's silly, but it's just, the audience wants it, and it's great.
Exactly. Yeah, this is the only film that gives you instant replays of like the various stunt work that it's doing, and it's fucking fantastic. Like,
Yeah, like the
like it
filmmaker's like,
would,
can you
it would,
believe what we are watching right now? This is insane.
yeah,
Let's watch it again. It's great. It's
it
it's
wouldn't
such
work.
a, it's
Like,
such a like it's almost like this old fashioned like vaudeville kind of thing where the performer is talking to the audience and like, can you believe this? This is so good.
Yeah, so I did not like this movie very much.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever seen a martial arts movie, honestly. I saw like the Karate Kid remake maybe when it came out and I was young. I don't know. I was not a fan. I thought it was like fun. Like I really liked the beginning the most, I think. Like my favorite part was not a fight, it was the bike race scene. So like not even a fight. Um but I really do appreciate that we got to it's all live stunts, which I every time I'm watching a fight in most movies, I'm like they film it in a way where you can't even follow the choreography because it's like close-up shots and just like shitty. So I appreciated that, but otherwise I was like there's no character development for Ting. He's like at the beginning, he's told, don't use your Muay Thai to like, for violence. And then immediately he just goes and knocks the shit out of someone. Like the only character that got development was George, who I loved. He was such a goof. Like I saw him and I was like, this guy sucks, but I love him. Um, but like it was not for me. I did not really enjoy this movie. I will say a spoiler for the next movie. I was really excited to start this movie immediately after finishing the last movie. I did not like that one, but
Oh no, I'm sorry, Abby.
but it's okay. It's okay. You'll have some interesting takes about how I watched the last movie. Yeah, I gave this movie a 3 out of 10 on Letterboxd. I was not into it.
Fair enough. I understand. It's not for everyone. Yeah, it
yeah,
definitely
it's
doesn't
a
have
very
much character development. It's a little bit like Bad Genius in that. I mean, Bad Genius had more character development, but to me, the thrill of it is purely just the formal elements and the sensations that it gives the viewer. But if those aren't sensations the viewer wants, then it doesn't have much else going on, unfortunately.
I also was confused why the bad guy was building a giant Buddha head when he said that he doesn't believe in religion. Is there a
I think
reason
he
for
was
that?
excavating it. I think he
Oh,
yeah. I
was.
think he was
okay.
trying to excavate
Okay,
it.
sorry.
Yeah.
I think the
I thought he was
implication.
building it.
I think the implication was he was basically excavating or stealing religious artifacts from around Thailand and selling it.
He was just a black market, antiquities dealer was essentially the thing.
Yeah.
I see.
In terms of if we want to try and find deeper meanings, I did read a few articles on the film, and one thing that a theorist named Patan Kitiasa, which I think is a Singaporean researcher, she observed that late 90s there was a big economic crisis in Thailand, and it kind of depressed the country. And a lot of cinema since then has been this attempt to kind of remasculinize or reestablish the power of the country, reassert its masculinity. So there's a lot of martial arts films to boost that kind of like sense of national spirit. But it's highly focused on male fighters, so you don't really see any female fighters in this film as you do in other martial arts films. And other scholars have called it a very nationalistic film. So it's about Thai masculinity. You've got the traditional village culture, which is very romanticized. It shows Buddhism as a big part of the film. It's shown to be basically like morally correct. You see the Buddha statue killing the bad guy at the end. You see it sort of returning prosperity to the village once the head is returned. It shows Muay Thai as like the ultimate martial art form. Like you see the Japanese fighter and the Australian fighter and the Cambodian fighter, and they're all defeated by Muay Thai. So it's about that restoring national honor. And also the very thin storyline is about national treasures being stolen from their proper places, and Ting has to go and retrieve them, like restoring national honor. And in contrast to the village, which is very romantic and idealized and pure, the Bangkok is shown as this like den of scum and villainy, capitalist nightmare. There's drugs, there's gangs, there's con man, and not only that, but it sort of corrupts the villagers that go there. Like Humle goes there to be a priest, ends up a gambler. Ting goes there swearing to be a pacifist and immediately starts beating up people and getting involved in Humle's cons. So it's shown the westernized cosmopolitan city is shown as this corrupting influence, and the village is shown as this kind of pure traditional version of Thailand that must be protected and restored. So I thought that interpretation of the film was interesting and gives a bit more depth. But Ting as a character doesn't go through a big journey. And maybe that's because Tony Jaa doesn't have the biggest range in terms of acting. He's not his talent. His talent is his fighting. Yeah. He has a very sort of like babyish face and a very lethal body. Humle is kind of the heart of the film, I guess.
Oh, Tony Jaa is certainly a cutie, but I read one review that said he has the range of a potato, and I do agree.
Yeah, and in that sense, he's not as entertaining as Jackie Chan, who could sort of mug for the camera and affect lots of comedy and also seriousness. He had more of a range. Whereas Tony Jaa is very stoic and dutiful. But Humle, I think, provides the heart of the film because he goes on the biggest journey. He starts off as this like slimy sleazebag, kind of starts to get back in touch with his village roots, feels bad, starts helping Ting, and kind of redeems himself by the end of the film. But not many other characters apart from that, unfortunately.
I agree. I like the taxi bike race type thing, and some of those like 3-wheeled bikes. So you kind of get the old school comedy of Mr. Bean when he was driving around that old car that would always get run off the road. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's why it connected with overseas audiences, because it's such a return to like visual storytelling. The story doesn't really matter. It could almost be a silent film. It's just the athleticism and the physical comedy and the physical gags.
Yeah, you just get some stock electronic music like in the background and just like, all right, go.
Oh yeah, good early 2000s soundtrack as well.
I know.
The final point is I love the announcer at the club. And when they have the police raid, and he just like says music and starts dancing as the police. So funny.
I will say the one downfall of Bad Genius is when they go to Australia, none of the English voice actors or English actors are good, because I'm assuming the Thai people couldn't really tell, like if they were good actors or not. But in this movie, he didn't get that much lines, but that announcer, because he spoke always in English, was good. So that was that's something that you always have to deal with when a foreign language movie has a language that you actually speak and you're like, these guys suck. But that was just who they could find. That was why Bad Genius had a German guy in Australia for some reason.
I don't think there were any Australian actors in Bad Genius.
There was one Australian, but like the exam proctor was American. The security guy was either German or Austrian, and there was like one brief Australian person. But that's one of the negatives with that movie, and I did think that the few English lines in this movie were delivered well.
I was cringing at the Australian what was his name, Big Bear.
Yeah.
Just like abusing the Thai. Like I was, oh no, it's a bogan. They let a bogan into Thailand and he's beating everyone up. And it's funny, like both films have appearances, one set, partly in Australia and another has this like Australian villain in it. The first kind of fighter that can actually stand up to Ting. And I guess that's because it's slightly closer to Australia than most of the other countries we covered. But yeah, not the best representation.
I have to ask that because I was like a little kid when this came out. So that hairstyle that Big Bear had, is that a hairstyle that anybody has ever sported? It was so bad.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it was like meant to be like a surfer kind of bedraggliness. It was pretty gross.
Like, and then the bar woman came up and she had the same hair because like crimped hair was a thing, but I'd never seen it on a man, and it just did not work on him.
No. All right, we might move on to our final film.
I'll just say one last thing. I was waiting for the end specifically for this, where kind of the other most well-known Tony Jaa film is The Protector, and there's a 4-minute one-take sequence where he's like climbing the stairs on kind of this circular building type thing and fighting a bunch of people. I mean, you don't have to watch the whole film. Like just YouTube that. It's one of the best action sequence. It's considered one of the best action sequences of all time. Up there with the old boy hallway fight and stuff like that.
So there were 2 more Ong-Bak films. Are they worth seeing? Have you watched them, Matt?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember if I've seen them or not. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the Protector.
Okay, thanks, Matt.